just a reminder, if you're watching this episode on YouTube, Rooster Teeth First members can watch us record live and tweet along with us every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central. You can get a 30-day free trial First membership by checking out the link below and getting all the details there. We'd love to see you live.
Wow.
I just really like the music.
Got it.
Oh, you flipped it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, every now and again I flip it for fun.
See, I've only been on one other one.
You know,
yeah.
Some days I do it, some days I don't.
See, I've only been on one other one. I sat right there, and everybody got mad at me for not flipping the thing.
Well, yeah, that's because you're a terrible failure, actually.
Fair. Okay.
Well, we
cool.
did fail to tell him
up.
that was his job.
Okay, well, there's failure to go all around. Welcome to the patch. Brought to you today by Movement Watches.
How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're here to talk about video games, as per usual. Joining us this week is...
Ashley.
Matt.
Matt who?
Bragg.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
And Ryan Haywood.
Okay. I don't need a
Just in
last
case.
name. I'm just like Cher
There
or
you go.
Beyonce. So, are we going to talk about anything this episode besides Pokemon?
I got a lot more
hope
things
not.
to talk about because I have nothing interesting to say about Pokemon.
Well, we have a lot of interesting stuff to say about Pokemon. Specifically,
Like
because
how
we've
it
been playing.
launched without working multiplayer. Can you believe it?
You're
We're just
thinking
talking about
of
Watch Dogs now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right, Watch Dogs.
Nice
yeah.
segue.
Or how it just got a special accessory that sold out immediately to make it wireless. It's a Vive.
Oh, okay. So you got me complete with that one. I had no idea what you were talking about there.
Yeah, for a second I was trying to figure out how that applied to the NES Classic, which just sold out immediately.
Well, your wireless NES controllers invented back in 1980. Obviously.
Yes, of course.
Work totally fine now with
Using,
the brand new console.
Have you got to
Using
play with your
cutting-edge
little
technology.
new device?
Yeah, we pulled the NES Classic out on the Extra Life stream and hooked it up. It's actually really convenient. So Nintendo sent us one. We didn't manage to get one at the store. We just got lucky. It came in a box and we went, oh, this is very exciting. And then that was about the extent of it. I didn't realize it was going to be in such short supply that it was going to be this hot commodity.
Unless you're in Portugal.
Unless you're in Portugal. But so on the Extra Life stream, we pulled it out, hooked it up. It's really pretty cool. It does not have of course, the classic input, but you can get a little dongle that will switch it. So you can use an old NES controller with it, like an actual classic one, which is actually pretty awesome. Because the input's just a little bit different. It's actually the same input as the Wii.
Okay,
Where
that's what that wired controller
it's a little bit
was.
C-shaped. Yeah, so we can actually hook up, I
The
think
Wii had a wired controller?
It didn't have a wire control. You're talking about like the nunchuck plug-in?
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of
So
thing.
it's got like that
weird
little sort of
dude.
C thing. But then there was also it's the same input as, I believe, the Wii U. The Wii U, like there's like a classic controller that you can hook up.
Sure.
And it's got to be one of the two because we have one of those controllers in the house and it hooks into the NES Mini. But I didn't look at it closely enough to figure out if it was a Wii Classic controller or Wii U, or if there's a difference, because I know you can use so many of Nintendo's accessories interchangeably among the consoles.
It's weird, like they even now can use like the 3DS as a controller on the Wii U and shit like that.
It's pretty cool.
It's crazy how
Does
they do
that have to
stuff
go
like
through an adapter?
that. Yeah, the Air actually adapts to it while
it's
you're
the wireless,
it's all
okay.
wireless and stuff like that.
I
just discovered the Wii or the Wii U apparently had a plug-in somewhere.
One of the things that I really always loved too was, did either of you guys ever use the Game Boy with the link cable with the GameCube?
I did.
To the GameCube?
So
I had
this
like a
was-
GB original, and I had a link cable that could link it to another one, and you could play Tetris.
There's a special link cable that would attach to the GameCube as well, and there were, as I recall, there were only 2 games that ever supported it, which made it kind of a BS investment because every cable was like $20. And
They were not cheap at the time.
No.
I remember like young Matt scrounging the streets for cans to get like nickels to go buy like 2 or 3 so he could play with his friends.
wait,
and
like
none of them wanted to do it.
legitimately?
Yeah.
You went and did can recycling and stuff?
Yes, well, because my grandmother, we have like a heating and air business, and all the people would drink sodas and throw them in like a bin. And she's like, yeah, you can recycle cans. And I was like, the whole streets, they're littered with nickels. I can do anything.
There's money
yeah,
everywhere.
exactly.
Lining
So
the
I
streets.
I looked around for it, and I could afford 1 Game Boy cable after like 2 months.
Honestly, good money for a kid. Well, okay, maybe not that good of money for a kid, but
I mean, you know.
nickel at a time.
inflation.
Cleaning up the earth,
20 cans
getting
a
link
dollar,
cables.
that's not-
Yeah, it's not bad when you think about it, except for the fact that like when you first start, you're excited about it. Then when you get done, you're like, man, I'm fucking tired. I don't care. I don't want to do this anymore.
Just ruined my life for this cable, and no one will play with it.
I'm gonna go ride my bike.
Yeah, that's what you eventually default to.
Yeah. I ended up, so I had a couple of good friends and we all played together. We all made the investment. We all had a Game Boy, which is, yet another then super expensive investment to get. And we could play Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles and we could play Zelda Four Swords. That was all that those cables were ever good for.
You could play Pokemon Coliseum too. Just to get your Pokemon on Pokemon Coliseum, and then after that, it was like, this is useless. I don't care about it anymore. And I think you could use like the Tingle Tuner in Wind Waker if you had like a little sibling that you wanted to include in your single player game.
Tingle Tuner.
So,
well, Ryan, when
a
man and a console love each other very, very
This sounds
much.
like something that needs to be on a registry somewhere.
do you own a Tingle Tuner? Sign here. But yeah, no, you could like plug it into Wind Waker. And if you had a lot of money in Wind Waker, you could have like your friend throw bombs and stuff like that. And they're like little quests that you could do with Tingle involved to help you out. I don't know. I never really did all of them, but
So
that was like one of the other uses for that.
There were
thing.
apparently a few more than I realized because I didn't know about that. But I also didn't know. It's me people 694 on Twitter says they used to play their Game Boy Advance, plug it into the GameCube to play a Pac-Man game. Then the controllers were ghosts and the Game Boy is the Pac-Man. So you could have like you could have like one Pac-Man and you'd have the people with controllers playing as the ghosts.
That's pretty cool.
It was it was I think really one of the first examples of that sort of asymmetrical kind of multiplayer. One of the things I loved too about Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, honestly, I would love to play a new version of that, but I don't think it did well enough on account of the minimum $80 sort of investment to get a bunch of people going. Is everyone had a different map. That was what your Game Boy screen would do. You'd have someone with a monster map that would show like where the monsters were. Someone had a treasure map. Someone had a level map. And then I think the fourth person would have like the monster info. So whenever you're in a fight, it would have information on like what the monster was strong against or not. And it was cool too because you would cast spells with timing. So whereas, you'd have the classic Final Fantasy stuff like, Fire, Fira, Firaga. And in order to cast the stronger ones, you'd have to time spell execution among the players.
So by
it
the
might
end of
be
it,
like-
you just hated everyone that
So it
you
might be
were
like
playing with.
1, 2, beat, and then a third one. Or something like they had these different patterns that you would do to cast the different strengths of spells. And so it was very cool that, you had to work really closely together. It was, honestly, that's the sort of thing that Nintendo always says that they want to do as much of as possible. And if they really mean that, then I think we need more Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles games.
That's a bit of a stretch, but all right.
Stand behind your word, Nintendo.
Well, it's great because after your friends like screw it up so many times, you got this handy $20 cord to just strangle them with. Like, how dare you?
Exactly. You can cooperate, and then you've got a Garrett ready to go.
Yeah, right away.
How does it feel to get strangled by 400 cans?
Not fun. Not at all.
But, I know that they've moved and everything is like online now. I still think that Nintendo friend codes are not the way to go. And I hope that that's something they re-examine with Switch is just the entire way Nintendo accounts are set up.
It
Wii
seems
U
like
was,
they're kind of going that
It's
way.
a real
Wii
train
U was
wreck right
kind
now,
of an
right?
improvement.
How?
Like
Yeah.
a little bit, the fact that like you could have an account.
Okay, yeah, that is a
That's
good
a- is
that's a
a
step in the
start.
right direction.
That's
It's
a
not
good
tied
start,
to the hardware.
But have you ever had to try and recover your Wii U account?
Oh God, no.
Okay.
No,
so,
I've got a Wii U that I don't dare get rid of because you're screwed
Well,
from what I understand.
my original Wii U just died. It like completely just kicked the bucket. And what you have to do to get it back, if you can't turn it on at all, you have to like call a number, wait like half an hour for someone to answer you, tell them the problem, wait another half an hour for them to figure out what to do about the problem, and then you have to give them like 18 different security questions that aren't like things you've answered. They're normally like, what did you buy 6 months ago? And I'm like, I don't know. Mario sounds about right. And then they're like, yeah, okay.
Wrong.
That's
Wrong. No. No.
close enough.
How do you feel about your mother?
Not great. I don't know. Your Wii U says you do, though.
Yeah, your Wii and her Wii get along.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
constantly hanging out.
They
And-
make a great team in Mario Tennis.
Why is it so hard for them to get on board with a unified account?
I don't know.
Yeah,
And
you
like,
know, even Sony, honestly, has only really gotten that together in the last couple of years. And to be fair, Sony is now doing great. Honestly, the second they introduced PlayStation Plus, I think, frankly, the subscription services, like, they do pay for a lot of infrastructure, and they're able to support an awful lot more. And getting people into that service and using it, which the free games every month were huge for doing that. But even Sony was a couple years, I felt, behind Xbox Live. Remember, like, even
absolutely,
PS2 after Xbox Live had launched, and it was this sort of unified online platform, and PS2 was still, the games were run by the individual publishers, like the servers and everything, and the multiplayer was free, which is really, really great, until it's all super shitty, and then they go down, and you have to have a different account for this game, then this game, then this game, and your friends lists are then totally separate. And it was just sort of a hassle.
yeah.
And Nintendo is even way behind that. So at best, we can get that new system with Switch at best.
Do you feel like publishers are dragging us back in time to that era again, with having all of this outside requirements? Like, you have to, if you're playing a Ubisoft game, you need to sign up to Ubisoft Club. If you're playing like Civilization, you have to sign up for a 2K account to have cloud saves. Are we being dragged backwards by publishers
I
to
think
try and
the
keep you in
publishers
their
are trying to make
ecosystem?
that happen, for sure. Because I think a lot of companies now understand the value of a user base. I mean, if you look at, like, let's say WhatsApp, that sold for, what was it, $19 billion? Or that's, like, it was worth that, or was acquired for that. I'll
at
look it up
least,
exactly.
yeah,
But
around
I don't know, but I'm
it
just
was
going to go with that. Sure.
ridiculous. And it's a shitty messaging app for mobile. The only reason it was worth anything was because it had an enormous user base. Internationally, it's got a long history as one of the only best messaging platforms that used Wi-Fi instead of text messaging. So especially in regions where it, like, costs you 25 cents per text, people just use that instead. So it has, hundreds of millions. I don't know. Let's just make totally baseless claims and say it's got 1 billion people.
It's got a huge
Yeah.
user base,
Absolutely.
Huge user
which
base.
is at the moment
that's what the value is.
under-monetized, is how they would probably look at it, right?
Yes.
Because it's not, even like Twitter isn't making money,
I
right?
don't think so.
They're desperately trying to sell themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these large social apps that have incredible market saturation but have no way to turn that into money, and yet people buy them. They buy that company for billions of dollars.
Well, it's,
Absolutely.
just the
And-
user base, like you said, absolutely, because people see all these people there flocking to one specific little area, and then they see money there, but they just don't really know how to get it, I guess.
Well, how does Ubisoft figure this out, but Nintendo hasn't? Like, your Ubisoft account can hop between consoles, it can hop between systems.
Well, Nintendo also
Yeah.
has a very traditional Japanese approach to a lot of that stuff, though. So they may be changing that, but for them it's a slower process because once they've established a system for their platform, it's very, very difficult to change it.
Well, that's kind of the other thing. Like, Nintendo already, they get you by making you buy the console. That's like
That's
your
their user
membership,
base.
kind of. So it's like you're already in at that point. They don't care what the fuck happens to you after that. Yeah, you're there.
We have your money.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're trapped with us now.
Look on the bright side, you have to keep it. You can't change it.
Yeah.
Well, you're
That's
trapped on that console now. 100% That's
100%
terrible,
true.
though. With a company that's constantly iterating their mobile hardware.
It's true. They've made some improvements in the last couple of years, largely with, I would say, the 3DS is an example, because you can have the same Nintendo account that works on Wii U, also works on 3DS. For a long time, they actually had a limit as to how many times you could transfer your ownership and your license from one 3DS to another. There was a limit of, I think it was 5 over 5 years.
That's still a thing.
What?
That's still a thing. Last time I had to do it with my Wii U, at least, because that was like I had to call them and be like, I need to transfer all my licenses to this new Wii U, which they were basically like, okay, 2 weeks from now you can use that Wii U, and I'm like, that's great. I don't want to do that.
2
Wait,
weeks
what?
from now?
It took them 2 weeks to transfer it.
So
like-
basically, somewhere in the back, there's a single guy that just runs
Apparently
grabbing
it's
codes.
just like this one can go to this new Wii U now, and like basically what it was they had to unlink my account from my broken Wii U. and then I had to wait for however long to just start up my new one.
You know what? I'll bet there were some faxes involved.
Yeah.
Someone got a page.
Sorry, the fax is down. I can't get your code all the way over there. Sorry, man.
They used a rotary phone to dial somebody.
Mr. Miyamoto, can you hear me?
Is it okay, sir?
Yeah.
sure.
3DS,
Go for
3DS,
it.
they at least dropped that limit, and it's an automated process now. My hope is that they're learning from a lot of the 3DS stuff to apply forward, but there are still shortcomings. For example, the 3DS, you can only have one user account per 3DS. So, you know, if I wanted to share my 3DS with one of the boys, not that I ever would, but if I was that kind of sharing person, I couldn't. You know, and for games like Pokemon, where you can't have multiple saves, that is an issue.
Do you think this is in some ways maybe a reaction? Like if you look at historically how Nintendo developed, they went from what was basically a cartridge-based games, which were very shareable and very easy to establish rental businesses on, to this more of a digital distribution. Not that they still can't have discs, but do you think maybe in some ways losing out on the revenue that renting and sharing cost them earlier on, caused them to go to a more restrictive architecture?
Maybe, but I think it's also just, it's very in line with how Nintendo approaches the protection of their properties. It's, you know, also with their Let's Play monetization, it's that same sort of like revenue reclaiming to some degree. They like things locked down so that no one can do something without them having to give you a thumbs up, basically. And my hope is that that will change.
Yeah.
You know, I'm basing that off really just the way the rest of the industry is going. I can't guarantee that Nintendo will follow suit because they've always played by their own rules. But at the very least, it would be nice to have multiple Nintendo accounts and to be able to log on and off and base everything around your account rather than locking stuff to specific hardware, my opinion.
I'm sure it's because they're like worried about piracy and stuff like that, right? Because like that, I think was their excuse before, was just like, yeah, no, if you have like multiple accounts, you can just share games. No, don't do that.
Well, speaking of what?
I just got the best slack from one of our editors, Neil. He said, "Hey Ryan, can you explain the Jeffrey joke?" You guys have been saying Jeff's name weird for weeks, and I guess it's a reference to a video we haven't released yet. Yes, it is, Neil, if you're watching. It's a reference to 100-foot robot golf. Because they have a character named Jeffrey, and it says, Jeffrey, whenever you select his character. Sorry, not to interrupt. I just thought that was funny. We've actually confused our own editing team. So God help you, anybody that watches our content.
The thing about the way...
Flustered.
Yes. The thing that's kind of funny, though, about Nintendo's approach and they're protecting their stuff is it's not actually... Well, you know what? It might be working on piracy because we just recorded a news read about this. So Sun and Moon got...
Good games.
Yes, good games.
Born into this land of user protection, bad user experience, and deceit that is Nintendo. Right. Sun and Moon came to you.
They will break through it, Ryan, and be way worth it. I promise.
But it got pirated already. The game's not even out yet, but as of last week, there were leaked ROMs of it floating around the internet, and so I had to ask someone because I'm always confused about how something like 3DS piracy would even work. I assumed you had to crack your entire 3DS, but I guess you get this mock cartridge that has a micro SD slot and it pretends it spoofs itself as another game and then can like load stuff up. So you have to pay money for the fake cartridge and all that stuff in order to then steal games.
But it could be multiple games, right? Or is it locked to one?
That doesn't make it not ironic.
Well, yes, but I mean, it's like I can buy this one thing and have all the world until they shut me down.
Right up until Nintendo shuts you down, and that's what's happened now. Is Nintendo essentially bricked through the 3DSs of people who have played this pirated version of Sun and Moon and connected to their online services.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like people get really bold with that, right? I guess they think I already broke through once. They're not going to care. They're not going to catch me.
Or I don't even know that I don't even know that it's that much cleverness going on so much as not even thinking about it. They're just like connecting to the internet because they want to connect with friends. But the thing is about like those walled gardens, everything goes through Nintendo. Mm-hmm. And so they've shut down all those 3DSs because they're violating terms of service by using pirated games on the system, which they clearly don't allow, which means no access to the eShop. So if they had digital games purchased on that system, they can't access the eShop to download anything, nothing. And I don't know that we've heard anything about it yet, but I'm very curious to see if there will be any further reaching consequences for their Nintendo account because everyone who has a 3DS has it linked to a Nintendo account, and you could theoretically then lock them out of their Wii U. You could, if they don't change the system too much, they could keep them from doing anything on Switch. Nintendo could seriously fuck up your day.
It's true.
I guess you could always just create a new Nintendo account, but yeah, you'd lose access to all your purchases. There's kind of an interesting privacy issue here, though, right? So I assume that...
Is there?
Well, I mean, there may be. So accessing online services, I'm not 100% sure. Have you guys played the game at all yet?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So there's integration inside the game to give you access to things online, or is it a pretty much offline experience?
So the game in its normal everyday form plays offline, but you can go into a plaza where you connect to other people, and that's where you can battle other people and trade Pokemon and do all that sort of stuff. So you have to go into a thing, like into a specific part of the game to activate and use the online services.
You can
Okay, so as long as you don't do that
Yeah.
with the game, they probably haven't caught you.
Theoretically.
Because if they were catching people that had not actually used the in-game online services, then that's an interesting question of how much should Nintendo be able to look at your history,
Well, Nintendo,
which is totally normal. by the way.
Nintendo did issue a statement. They said, yeah, we absolutely shut those down, and they said because they had used they'd used illegitimate software and accessed Nintendo's online systems, and that was a violation of their 3DS terms of services. So they shut those 3DSs down.
It's incredibly common nowadays. I mean, pretty much every device, every service you connect to connects some user data, whether you like it or not. Even if you opt out of it, they're still taking bits and pieces of it. And so I mean, who really cares when it comes to unless you're going to pirate a game?
Yeah.
Who really cares if they watch what you're playing? It's just kind of a weird feeling to know that more of that nanny stuff is happening, where there's someone out there paying attention
Right?
to the things.
True, but
Nintendo just wants to watch and make sure you raise the best Pokemon you can. All right, that's all they care about.
Isn't
Po-
that a
it's
game
Pokemon
about
welfare.
you're grabbing semi-sentient beings and putting them in balls and
They're volunteering.
pressing them into service,
Semi-sentient.
right?
Exactly.
Oh, okay,
Semi-sentient.
good.
They're not
Semi-sentient.
completely
So if
there.
it learns a second word, is then it bad to put it in the ball, or
They have affection. They learn new
Yeah,
things. They're
exact-
sentient.
it's they're but they're your
They're
partner.
they're your
they
buddy.
want to do it for you.
do they
Not-
want to live in the ball? Is
They-
it nice in there?
From my understanding, some stuff in the game made me believe they don't know they're in the ball for an extended amount of time.
It's like
It's kind of like
think of it as a pocket dimension, because it's supposed to be like a paradise in
Where
there.
you
Yeah.
banish
It
them when they're
doesn't-
inconvenienced?
Sure.
the way one guy in the
This
game
is
described
horrific.
it, where he was like, "Yeah, when you put them in the computer, where do they go? It must just be like time travel because they just come out and it's like nothing happened." And I'm like,
Would they want to be
Wow,
like
that-
caught up on what happened? Like,
Well, yeah.
wait a minute, I was just
That's-
fighting that other
I
thing.
think that's
Why am
what
I
he had
here?
to do. He had to be like, I had to explain to my Pikachu, like, I did this, and then I don't know. I'm not in the game.
What if
actually
the
learning it, but-
Pokemon doesn't even like you anymore? What if you've grown apart in the
No.
time where it's been frozen in
But
time?
in the time it's frozen in time, nothing happened to it. As long as you were nice to
yeah,
it
but
before
lots
you
of things
put it in
happen
there.
to you
Well, I mean, you might not like it, but it might still like you.
until it learns who you are now.
I've seen what you did. You were
Plus, you
terrible.
only
while
get
I
it
was in
out
there.
to fight other Pokemon.
Yeah,
You
but
don't
they
have to-
like that.
That's true. Some of them do like it, but also you can take care of them and do little fun like
You can pet them,
stuff,
and you can feed them. You can feed them magic jelly bean candies.
yeah, they do. They like those jelly beans.
So basically, you're giving them a high fructose corn syrup diet, and then only bringing them out to fight their kind.
Absolutely.
You can comb them too.
All of this sounds horrific. Oh,
Yeah,
good.
you
Groom
can-
them up real nice before you put them on the
can-
battle floor.
You can use a brush to brush the sand off them,
Yeah.
or sometimes they have tangles and they need to be combed. And,
You got a hair
or
dryer.
sometimes, if they're
Yeah.
wet, you use a little hair dryer on them to dry them off.
Is this Pokemon or My Little Pony?
Little
A
both.
little both, yeah. My little Pokemon.
And you
Yeah.
both play this as
Oh, yeah.
adults.
I
So,
love it. It's great.
I didn't play Pokemon when I was little. I always felt like that was something I missed. My little brother, he was, I think, just that perfect age. It was Pogs and Pokemon. Also, my parents did give me a Game Boy. They got him a Game Boy,
Oh.
which I always thought was pretty fucked up. But moving right along,
And you clubbed him in the shins and took it.
I borrowed it on occasion. I was the big sister. It was my right.
And then his Pokemon loved you more than him, right?
Well, I'm not going to go that far.
You're not heartless, gotcha.
Because I thought I'd kind of missed it. And it's, you get to a point where you're just like, I'm a rebellious teenager. I'm too old for stupid Pokemons anyway.
I'll get there one day.
I'm busy like playing my smart puzzle games and whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just accepted that was a thing that I missed. I did not expect it to be, as long running a franchise. And so the first one that I made a conscious effort to get into, because this is clearly a phenomenon, I'm gonna give it a go again, was Pokemon X. So not that long ago. And I didn't make it that far. I played it for a little bit and immediately realized, oh, it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors sort of. I mean, yes,
Yeah,
okay, there
what
are.
you don't
Okay,
realize
so
is
there's
you can
18
comb
types
them,
of rocks,
though,
papers, and scissors.
and pet
Yes.
them and blow dry them
It's true.
between them fighting each other to the death for
I mean-
your pleasure.
You can't do that with rocks, paper, or scissors,
That's true.
except for Pet
Remember
Rock.
that time
Shit.
Rock beat scissors to pieces?
Brutally, just yes.
At least there's no death. They just pass out, and then you take them to the lady, and she makes them better.
So, can we talk about the hyper attacks and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no passing out from a hyper attack in that game, right? Like I had one that shot a fire thing, blew up the surrounding area, and then in the middle of it, there's like a fish, and he's like, "I'm okay."
I'm okay. I'm okay. Let's see. Here is Nerdtron JJ. I'm going to send this to broadcast. He sent us a nice little illustration of what it looks like for. No, hold on. I can do this. I can send links
You do it.
to.
I believe in you.
I can multitask. This is no problem at all. What it looks like for a Pokemon when they're in their little Pokeball.
Oh, we get to see the inside
Well, I mean, it's an artistic rendition from
of their
fans
prison
and stuff,
cell.
but it's them just like chilling. Think of it less as a prison cell and more as a man cave, but for
You know,
Pokemon.
there's another
They're
kind of
in there
creature
just
that
like-
lives in a small little thing like that, and it's called a genie. They're always trying to get out.
Yeah, but they grant you wishes.
They're
See,
never
look,
happy
doesn't
about
he
being
look-
in there, are
doesn't
they?
he look like he's having a good time? Like he's got his GameCube. I bet he's got link cables, and I'll bet they didn't cost him $20.
But he can't ever have friends come over.
It's true.
He can never use them.
Well,
Maybe they're all linked by Pokeball Wi-Fi.
yeah, it's
might
a
make sense.
virtual network. You know what? It's fine. This is fine.
All right.
I
I
am,
don't
for what
know.
it's worth, though, I really am enjoying Sun and Moon. So X, like, I initially wrote it off as being like, oh, it's just a rock, paper, scissors thing.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that is an oversimplification, and that there's a lot more to it. But
It's just
when I,
slightly more complex. It's not like that much.
well, it's like,
Like sometimes
there's
you have
like
a hyper
18
rock.
typings and such, and there's the, there's the like choosing which moves to keep and not keep and all that. So they're like,
Sometimes the paper is super effective.
It's true though.
Yes.
Sometimes you stack two rocks on top of each other, and paper just fucks it up.
But when I went to play, and I played Moon. Which version did you play?
I played Sun.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I started playing Moon, and there were a lot of things that for someone like me who doesn't have 20 years of history with the franchise, I found very helpful. One of the things that they changed is you don't have to memorize the typing chart now. It will, after you've encountered a Pokemon and fought it, you'll have an idea which types of attacks are effective against that Pokemon. And it will tell you in the, like when you have a Pokemon out to fight him, it'll say these are effective against this one, this one's not effective. Like
How do
basically
you think
don't
that
bother
feature
using
will
it.
be received? Do you
I think it's going to depend on the player. It might honestly be nice to have that as an optional feature that you could turn off. I don't think it's the case, but I feel like Nintendo was preparing for this game to bring a lot of people back into Pokemon because they played Pokemon Go and thought, that's right, I remember Pokemon. I played it once 20 years ago, whatever. I'm going to give it a go again. And so there are a lot of those kind of, honestly, kind of hand-holdy features. And based on early reviews, other people have noted that it's maybe a little bit too hand-holdy as well for veteran Pokemon players. So I can see that being slightly irritating.
That is kind of the thing where it's like if you've played every single one of them, you don't need any of that kind of stuff. But I feel like if you can turn it off in like link battles against other people, that would probably satiate kind of the hardcore people because then it's like, yeah, they can mess up by not knowing what type my Pokemon is when they're playing against an actual other human. So, and that's like a big part of, I guess, competitive, just people being stupid and
Okay.
not knowing what they're doing.
I rely on the stupidity of others to win my battles.
It's a strategy.
It's not that I'm good, it's that you're
Yeah.
ignorant.
You use that really weird Pokemon that no one knows what it is. They're like, what type is that?
Obscurion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to look at the name and then go,
It's like,
and then guess on it.
it's name and color if you don't know what it is. You're like, you're green, your name's Leafo, you're probably water. Actually, you're grass.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually I went back and started playing X after playing some Moon because I figured it would help me to get a better idea of what Sun and Moon had added that I thought was like friendlier, that smoothed out the edges that I would notice as like holes in Pokemon X. One of the things that that Sun and Moon have added, and this is another handholdy feature, is kind of an objective marker. So where you go to advance the story, which again people find handholdy. To be fair, I get that criticism when Oblivion introduced objective markers for Elder Scrolls. I was like, huh, this is some noob shit right here. I remember back in my day with Morrowind, and you just had to write down the name of that person in that town and hope like hell you could
I mean,
find
you still
them and
had
remember.
a journal. Like, you could just open your journal. It's like, oh, yeah, I talked to that guy, and he was like, you should go see this person in that place. That being said, there was several times where you're like, oh, I wonder if that guy's still alive. I wonder where he lives. Let me just wander around for an hour as he strolls about the town.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have played Morrowind. I get lost in Skyrim, just like, oh yeah, it's straight that way. I'm gonna keep going straight that way. Oh, there's a mountain.
And six other things.
Yeah.
Morrowind
All right, I'll
was the
stop.
kind of game where you legitimately needed the paper map that came with it, because they'd say, go find this person in Ashfall. And Ashfall, you know, whatever the town was called, was the only town in the middle of this lava field that was,
Where the
you know, a
ashes fall.
20-minute run across.
Yeah.
And so
AKA
you'd
the
have
worst
to
place to live.
you'd have to like find these like land features and be like, all right, I'm going to go to the river, and then I follow the river north, and then I'll see this other thing, and then we'll get there. And,
Which is
but
cool.
You
I
didn't
kinda-
have. It was fun.
It's a cool experience, but yeah, like I guess
But
when
it
it
is
comes
hardcore
to gameplay,
as
yeah,
well.
exactly. You're
So-
like, I spent 30 minutes looking for this place. I got here and the guy gave me like 5 gold. I hate this. I'm out, you know.
Yeah, and they that actually, when I went back to Pokemon X, kind of threw the helpful part of those objective markers into relief, because I haven't played X since 2013, and I opened up and I was like, I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. You know, and I was like, you know what would be really helpful? An objective marker.
Nah, you should just start over. Just go back to the beginning.
Yeah, it's tempting, but then I'm like, there are already enough hours in it, and I have these Pokemon, and it feels like a waste.
Well, no, then you just wait for the remaster or the remaster or the double triple
yeah, like
HD
the
remaster.
second time they make the game,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh
And
yeah,
then you have a reason to
Wait,
start
I'm
over.
gonna wait for Pokemon XX.
Because nothing transfers because through their back end.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the objective markers are pretty good because I did kind of the same thing where I played Omega Ruby, and I played through the game back when I was like a kid when it was just Ruby, but I hadn't done like the new stuff that they released with that game. So when I didn't play for like 6 months, picked it back up, and there's new stuff that I didn't play when I was a kid. I'm like, right, so where do I go? And like after about an hour, someone was like, go to the Moss Deep. I'm like, oh, okay. Where do I go?
I need you to really lay
like,
it out for
can
me.
you can you point on this map where it might be?
If you could just draw an
Yeah.
X.
I tell you what, Charizard's right here. Tell him where to fly to, and we'll get this sorted.
I'll go in the ball. He'll go.
Yeah, he'll do it. But yeah, no, I think it also kind of encourages exploration too, because it's like, yeah, I have to be right there. I'm gonna go everywhere else first.
Right, because that's whenever I
Yeah.
have an objective marker, that's the thing, is go everywhere else until there's nothing I can do but go to that objective marker.
Yeah. And like there are a few moments where it's like very hard, like, okay, we get you've explored the island. I hope you're having fun, but go right here. There's nothing else to do. Just
It's
go
like,
do that.
seriously, move on.
Yeah,
Let go.
exactly. It's like, all right, your Pokemon are way stronger than they need to be right now. Just go. We don't want you to have too easy a time.
Well, you know what's even better than objective markers, Matt?
What, Ryan?
Actually, time is exactly it. You have a nice watch there.
Thank you.
This episode of The Patch is brought to you by Movement Watches. I absolutely love the watch they sent me, and Ashley, I know you love yours as well. Sleek, stylish. We always get tons of compliments when we wear it out. Movement was started by 2 broke college kids that wanted to wear stylish watches but couldn't afford them. So they started their own watch company. The watches start at just $95. At a department store, you're looking at $400 to $500. Movement figured out that by selling online, they were able to cut out the middlemen and the retail markup, providing the best possible price. Get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to movementwatches.com/patch. That's movement. That's MVMT watches.com/patch and join the movement. Just like Ashley and I, but not you, Matt.
Okay.
You're not cool enough yet.
If you're
One
lucky,
day.
Show up for a couple more patches
hold on.
and maybe
Sounds good.
hang around with us. We'll set you right.
yeah.
Sweet. I'll know what time it is and everything. It'll be great.
Yeah. Actually, you know what's weird? I actually don't feel right with something on my wrist now.
Really?
Yeah.
Without something on your wrist.
Yeah. I always feel like something's missing if I don't have an actual watch on.
Mm-hmm.
I had that like when I was in middle school. I used to always wear a watch, and then finally I broke it, and was like, well, I'm never replacing that. But it felt weird for like 2 months.
It's
you know?
gone forever.
Yeah, exactly. It's gone for good. But
There are no more watches in the world for
yeah,
me. Well, now there can be.
it's true.
Well,
I
and
could
you know-
have a stylish watch instead of my old like $15 waterproof watch that was crappy and made of plastic.
No lie, I had a Casio calculator watch in high school.
All right, you're cool.
Nice.
I think I've stepped up in the world a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm not cool enough for a watch, right?
Look, you could do math on it.
On the subject of time,
Yeah.
it's one of the things that separates the two Pokemon games
It's
Wait,
true.
what?
this time around. So, there's Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Uh-huh.
They take place 12 hours apart.
Well, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind
It's
of
weird.
Yeah.
It's weird, and it was probably less weird for you than it was for me. But-
yes,
Which is
yes
first?
and no. So
I think Moon takes place 12 hours
it's like at
in
night.
the future. It's like
Basically,
the thing is they're
okay.
swapped.
Yeah.
So like any sorts of like cutscenes or events that take place during the day for Pokemon Sun take place at night for Pokemon Moon. But it's also swapped. So there are things that will take place at night for Sun that take place in the day for Moon.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Honestly, kind of a weird as far as gimmicks go.
Yeah.
But
so
it's
Ashley,
interesting. Yes.
did you play during the day? So it was nighttime for you? Like in the game?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of both because I played, sometimes during the day and sometimes at night. But I always found it weird because I'd be like, a lot of times we were like running around town and people are out doing stuff, and I'm like, it's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like, why are all these shops open?
See, that's my thing is like I only play at night pretty much. So it's always just night in my game. And
I
I,
see.
Is it-
almost
is it
kind of
tied
think
to the human world?
it's tied to your clock in the 3DS.
Okay.
So I could do what I used to do, which is just set my clock back so whenever I
Mm-hmm.
have time to play, it's daytime. But like I kind of wanted to, since it was a new Pokemon, experience it in a way where it's like, yeah, I can just actually have the same time. I think it might have been better for me to play Moon though.
Is
Really?
that
Okay.
relevant
Because-
ever?
I like the sunny stuff. You know,
Yeah.
like see
No,
it like
that-
all
that makes
bright
sense.
and vibrant.
That makes sense. It's the weird thing for me at night was like my mom would be like, sunset. All right, go do things.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mom, shouldn't you be telling me to like come in and eat dinner and go to bed because it's nighttime?
No. The sun's harsh. You really pale skin. It's a sign of beauty in
So
this world.
there's like a kind of weird sort of cognitive dissonance there, I guess.
You're stealing the children of sentient creatures.
Look,
It's best work done in the dark.
Semi-sentient, all right? They don't know everything.
Did you see all the stuff he had in his bowl?
I don't know.
You can't
There's
have it both ways.
That
you
is-
have a
that's
living
fair, I guess.
Pokedex now.
That is true.
So
that
you
might
know an
be
awful lot.
that might be the
yeah,
biggest
you got a Pokedex
argument.
that's now a Pokemon. There's like a sort of like electric Pokemon.
He's like a ghost that
And
can
so
haunt electronics.
he basically
Yeah.
he's basically haunting your Pokedex, and so he talks to you and gives you information and stores a bunch of details.
He
Somebody
can
thought-
talk?
Yeah, somebody thought
Oh,
it'd be
yeah.
a great idea to put a speaker in there so he could speak. I don't think it's a super good idea, but
All right.
you know,
Give me the lowdown here. So Professor Oak.
Professor Oak's cousin.
But Professor Oak, like
Well, okay.
This is
totally
Professor-
banging your mom, right?
Well,
Well,
there's-
this first of all, this
oh,
is
yeah,
Professor.
absolutely.
yeah,
for
okay.
sure.
This is Professor Kukui, right?
Yeah, Kukui is
Kukui-
there,
Kukui.
and there's
He
also
banging your mom.
she'd be lucky if he was. But,
Right, dude.
Yeah.
He's like
He's ripped.
He's fit.
He's
He's like
jacked.
he's
Yeah.
like surfer trainer, dude.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he never wears a shirt though.
Ever. In
Never
fact,
once.
his colleagues make fun of him for it. They're like, "Oh, I haven't found a shirt to match your lab coat, have you, huh?" And he's just like,
Wait, so he's got a lab
Flex.
coat on.
Yeah, he's got the lab coat, but just like all
open.
abs, like right here.
and then like board shorts and
Yeah.
and a hat.
Is
I-
it is
I like
it
his style.
like a full length lab coat?
Oh,
Or is
yeah.
it just like a waisty?
No, it's a
No,
full length
it's-
lab coat
it's
with
like,
board
sure, all the
shorts
way.
and flip flops, and he's a crazy dude. What can
Yeah.
I say?
And
Yeah.
banging your mom.
No, he's got a wife. Pretty
they,
sure.
they seem like family. I think they
Who
might be cousins.
Swings with your
Yeah,
mom?
I don't know.
No,
Like,
I think Kukui. See, look at him.
Oh,
Doesn't
there
he
he
look
is.
yeah,
radical?
look at that guy.
He's got the soul patch and everything.
Yeah, and he's
That
got
sounds
like
more
he's
of
got
a
like his cool sunnies.
Goatee.
But I think he might be cousins with your mom.
Yeah, I don't know, because he definitely like acts more like your family.
Yeah, I think like I think he calls you cousin.
That could be like just the.
But that just might be general family.
Yeah, a lowland way to do stuff where it's like, oh, hey cousin, how are you?
Right.
But like, I'm pretty sure Professor Oak's cousin is actually his cousin, because like there's
Okay,
that like
yeah.
a lowland Professor Oak in the game.
I do like that, like even Professor Oak's
He's
got an Alolan form. So there's this one really cool moment in the game that I thought was a nice touch. As you know, Ryan, there are Alolan forms for the first gen Pokemon.
I'm so familiar with this. Yes, please continue.
So it's a neat touch for doing it for the first gen Pokemon in particular. Again, I feel like a lot of it was done with Pokemon Go players in mind, because that game at least familiarized a lot of people with what those first gen Pokemon were. They recognize them. They understand like who and what they are. And so then they go into this game and they're like, oh, but they're a little bit different now. They're like a different color, or just like, you know, the Rattata, instead of being purple, is like gray, and it's got kind of like little mustachy things going on.
Mustache thing, and then it turns into Faticate.
Right.
Whatever, yeah.
So it's like you can appreciate the difference if you just
into body shaming.
No, it's like
it's
normal
it's
Raticate,
but it's
just like a rat.
This one just looks like a puffball.
Yeah, it's a really big fat rat. I guess
he's-
there's more
he's
trash
kinda
for him
cute,
to eat
though.
or something. Yeah, it looks nice.
But you can appreciate that difference because you now have a grounding in what those Pokemon would look like otherwise. But there's this one moment where, and I think this is pretty early on in the game, I was going through an area and I met a tourist. And so I went to battle this tourist, and they threw out their Rattata. It wasn't a Alolan. Because they're not from there, their Rattata wasn't an Alolan Rattata.
And so you beat that thing up and sent it back where it came from, right?
Look, it's a cool touch. So this is
look,
there's
there it
the
is.
that's the traditional Raticate on the left, and that's the Sun and Moon Alola form
Faticate over
Raticate
there.
on the right.
His cheeks are just so big.
You know what he looks like? He just looks like a particularly productive chipmunk.
It's true. He's had a really successful day.
It's like when you look at him, it's like normal Raticate had like the ample space between his jowls for his teeth, but like Faticate's jaws are trying to eat his teeth. Just like, get him.
Yeah, I liked that. I just thought that was a neat little, almost a nod,
Yeah.
because the second I saw that Rattata come out, I was like, what?
had to-
I was like, that's not a Alolan. And
I
then
had
I
to
was like,
double
oh,
take
it's a
for a minute.
tourist.
Yeah.
Wait, the tourists came to battle people on vacation?
No,
Well,
you
no,
know,
you-
they're here, so they may as well.
Yeah.
And they brought
It's
their
all part of your
Rattata from you know, Kanto or wherever they came
that's
from.
great. Yeah, I love going to Hawaii and just punching everything I see.
Well, if you brought like your cat or dog, yes, you have them punch.
Oh, I
whatever they
should
see.
take
Yes,
my cat or dog
exactly.
and enter them into a fighting ring.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
No, I got it. No.
Which is fine
That's
in
what
Hawaii.
I do on vacation. Sure.
Yeah.
It's real hard to sell this game as
When
pro
on
Pokemon.
So-
an ethical standpoint, maybe,
Okay.
but just maybe, they seem to enjoy it.
All right. Well,
For the
hey,
most
as long
part.
as that's what their thing.
Mewtwo loved just
I
killing
mean,
whatever.
you found them in the wild, captured them, brainwashed them, forced them to live in a box or a
You don't
ball.
always brainwash them.
Oh, hold
just
on,
agree.
hold on. I think we have a present for Matt already.
Do what?
Hey, do we have this coming in?
What's up?
It's someone. I just got a message that we have a watch for you.
Oh, sweet. I'm cool.
That's how
So-
quick it is.
Someone
awesome.
might bring it over, or you can have it after. But see, that's what you get for hanging out with
Sweet.
us.
Thank you. I'm so glad I showed up today.
Ryan, what? So you're not into Pokemon at all?
Well, just honestly, I've never played one, and I don't have the hardware to play it. So
We have a 3DS in the office. You could do it today.
I'm not going to come to work and just play
I didn't say you
Pokemon.
should. I just said
All
you
right, there we
could.
go.
So just like I'm curious because did you feel like you missed it and so it's like, you know, not interested at all? Does it seem like it's oversimplistic, or do you just not like that type of RPG?
I like RPGs, but at this point, there's too many other games to play for me to stop and go back to a game that has that much history. When it's that far into the lore of a universe, it's real hard to enter as a new player. And I mean, it looks interesting, but not so compellingly interesting that it can pull me away from all the other games that I still want to play.
That's probably fair. I've had a lot of trouble now because like there's so many games that came out last
Yeah.
week where it's like, these games are great and all, but I have Pokemon early, so I'm gonna be doing that. But
It's like
it's tough to to do that. I get what you're saying with that.
You know
right
what?
right now I'm working through Civilization, Dishonored, Skyrim. Gosh, what else? There's so
you've
many
been
things.
playing Titanfall 2.
Titanfall 2.
Watch Dogs 2 just came out.
Which I haven't even played yet, but I will be playing soon.
Yeah, there's a lot to. I wonder if. I mean, we obviously know that it's going to be. There's going to be a Pokemon game of some kind on Switch because the Pokemon Company CEO said that they were working on a Switch game, and I'm wondering if it's going to be Sun and Moon port, or if it's going to be like Eclipse or Star, or if they're going to. And I know they haven't done a third one for a while. They've kind of gotten away from that, but maybe they'll do a third version that's Switch exclusive.
You gotta hope that they would come up with something new for a console
do too,
launch.
yeah.
I mean, you say that, but most of the games that Switch is launching with are Wii U remasters, which is, if you ask me, kind of a questionable strategy because those games clearly weren't enough to sell the Wii U.
That's a great point.
I would argue
it's like
Splatoon was a good selling point
it was
for
almost
but
enough.
Yeah, but I can see how it not completely, like, as far as to get a lot of people hooked in. It got a decent amount, but not a huge number like I think they're looking for with Switch.
Yeah, and now that they're Zelda is delayed out of March.
That's weird.
It looks like that's not going to launch with it either, probably.
I mean, what could be a argument in favor of that though is because they didn't move that many. Oh, I see a watch.
Hey.
Because they didn't move nearly as many of.
She's dangling it.
Oh, there it is, off screen suddenly. They're gonna get the tags off for you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Because they didn't move so many of the last gen console for Nintendo. Porting a lot of those games up to the next system may help them move systems to the people that didn't upgrade in the last cycle. Hey,
oh my God, you got one of the nice
That's
ones.
awesome.
Look at that.
Ooh.
It's the cousin of mine.
What does yours look like?
It's the same face
it's
style, but a different colors.
That's awesome. I'm gonna put this on right now. I don't know what time it is.
Trust me, you'll find it's strange how quickly you stop using your phone to check time.
Really?
When you can just like glance and you're like, ah. I was showing Meek and she was like, it doesn't have the numbers on it. How will I know what time it is? And I was like, trust me, you get it real quick.
You just count every time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You're looking good.
That's awesome. I like that.
But I mean, it's a good way to sell systems to people like, let's say me, for example, though I probably won't be going for the Switch, but I might have seen a bunch of games come out on the last platform that I would have liked to play, but never enough to really get me to commit to buying that platform. And now that they're moving things forward to a new platform, maybe then I could be convinced to buy it and get not just new games, but the ones that I wanted to play on the previous system that I didn't buy.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, but they're also supposed to be launching with like a brand new Mario game, right?
Theoretically. So that's the report at the moment. It's Nintendo hasn't even officially announced this Mario game, but Mario is the character they got on a lot of the marketing materials that were leaked out. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially, if they're gonna drop Legend of Zelda back, it makes sense to bring Mario forward.
It's kind of
it seems like they definitely need a tentpole to launch it with.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird like strategy, I guess, because they spent so long talking about like Zelda and how big the scope of this new Zelda game is, and then it's just like, yeah, but Mario, right? You like him? He's got that red hat. You love it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the characters from a sheer recognizability standpoint, Mario definitely takes the cake with mainstream gamers, but I also don't think that those are like those mainstream, not even mainstream gamers, but like mainstream consumers, the non-gamers who sometimes play games.
Yeah.
They would recognize Mario over Link, and they might even call Link Zelda. Who knows? But
probably.
So
he's got more
it
recognition
almost
for the brand, at least. Yeah.
Right. So it almost for me would have made sense to hold Mario back a little bit and put out that game in, say, August, and launch with Legend of Zelda for the more hardcore crowd that's going to pre-order the hardware out, and then get Mario and get that excitement among mainstream consumers going into next holiday.
With most other consoles, I'd be a little concerned, too, that they would try and push the game out a little bit faster. Obviously, they looked at the two games, or their two big titles, Mario and Zelda, and went, all right, well, this one's not going to be ready. Let's get this one ready to go with the launch, and put a lot of pressure on that team to drop a game. But typically, Nintendo stuff doesn't have nearly the launch day issues, at least in my memory, that
not normally.
most of the other console developers have these days.
Yeah, I think if I recall the Wii U launch, that day it was slow downloading the mandatory system update.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like basically it. Which, and to be fair, like Nintendo really didn't have updates until the Wii U, really.
Yeah.
It's like I can't really remember updating a Wii game. So that might just be the solution. You make better games when you can't mess up. There's
Well,
no way to fix it.
It's true, though Nintendo does tend to stray towards the less complex engine
That might be, yeah,
for
because
their
they kind
games.
of they nail their engine down and just stick with it for the remainder of it. So they don't
Yeah.
try to mess up the formula at any point.
Yeah, we'll see. I am curious if they'll try and bring the current generation of Pokemon to Switch, largely because some of those data mines showed that like the character models are way more detailed than they need to be for 3DS. Just magnitudes, and that may be because they're future proofing. Maybe these Pokemon they just don't want to have to redo for a later game, so they're overdoing it and then pulling back. Or maybe they're just prepping for a version for Switch because Switch is supposed to be handheld, like on the go as well.
The big question with that is like if you're going to port a 3DS game to that, there's no second screen, right? So there's no way to
Right.
like touch the Rotom guy, poke him in the eye, and aggravate him the whole time.
Yeah, I feel like they'd have to do something. It might just be an icon, like a baby
could
icon
be.
in the corner or something. That then you poke that and it switches into that mode.
I mean, it'd be a real
Because
missed
it does
opportunity.
kind of pause the
though.
game.
Like they really need to, if they're going to port that game to Switch, they need to find some way to give it a hook into the Switch system that makes. Yeah, I mean, if you're releasing a console, you want a flagship title that's going to say, "This is what this console can do that the other console couldn't do."
Well, think of this: there hasn't been a core Pokemon title on a home console.
That's true.
Here you go, Nintendo Switch. We finally gave you Pokemon.
Exactly.
That would be enough
I'm
for a
in-
lot
I'm
of
in.
people, though. Yeah, like
I mean,
myself included.
One of the things that actually annoys me about Pokemon Moon is that so it has, first of all, it has cutscenes, so that's an interesting development, kind of cool. But I'm starting to notice how like the low resolution of the 3DS screen. And there are a lot of games that I've been able to ignore that and forgive it, but for whatever reason in this game and in the cutscenes in particular, I've noticed that a lot more and thought, oh, this would be great if only.
Just like
Yeah.
you can see the pixelation of
Well,
the screen, or it's just a
the-
low DPI
it's,
or PPI.
It's largely like pixelation of stuff on the screen. It's just like it's displayed and it's kind of like blockier than it seems like it ought to be.
A lot of it for me is like they'll zoom in on your character, and like specifically my guy's eyes are just like kind of circular, but the black outlines are all squares for me. I'm like, yeah, that could probably be a little bit better, but it's also, the thing renders in like 240p.
Yeah, it's well, it's
Yeah,
not
it's-
quite 240p. It's weird. I want to say it's like
It's a
240
weird,
by
yeah.
800 something.
It's like a really weird resolution.
But that's another
But-
weird thing about Sun and Moon is it's 3DS exclusive. There's no 3D.
There is.
What?
There's 3D in the Pokemon Finder thing that's like Pokemon Snap. I only knew it because I put my 3DS in my pocket, like I often do, and then I went to take a picture of a Pokemon later, and I just was like, whoa, what the fuck is happening? Oh, the Switch has gone all the way up to 3D. Didn't know for like an hour.
I mean, to be fair, I tend to leave 3D off on
I do too,
3DS anyway.
but-
I usually I'll put a game in, I'll turn it all the way up and go, and then turn it off and never think about it again.
Well, that's still a thing
Yeah.
that I don't use.
Right.
Pokemon, I think it was X, they didn't have 3D for the most of the game either.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like basically the battles might have been in 3D and nothing else. So
Well, we've kind of talked around it for a while, but we got only a couple minutes left before I have to sprint over to the stream thing. Do you guys like it?
I actually do.
yeah, I love it. Like I've been
Okay.
a big Pokemon fan since I was like I think 8. So it really hits like a lot of the points, and they also do spend a ton of time being like, "Hey, you remember old Pokemon games? Remember that one? That's a good one, right? You like
Remember,
it? Yeah.
remember when Pokemon used to live free? Remember?
No, they don't. That doesn't
Wild
happen.
Pokemon always attacking you, man.
That's true.
Right, so they're vicious when they're loose. Okay, well maybe it's better we domesticate them. Then.
Yeah, you might be right. We might brainwash them now that I think about it. They do attack you immediately.
Yeah, I am enjoying it. I don't feel like it's a game I'm going to play to a completionist level. I don't think I'm going to get every Pokemon in the Pokédex. There's something like 800 Pokemon total in that Pokédex,
Just don't have the commitment, huh?
no, you're right. I absolutely do not.
Well, That's
but
I've got like a starting base already, so it's really only like 80 Pokemon in the Pokedex for me.
all right.
Yeah.
Wait, so you can pull them over from previous games, or
It looks like January you'll be able to start pulling them up from your previous games.
Yeah, because Pokemon Bank.
you should have done your homework? That's what I'm
Well,
hearing.
I'm just hoping that none of the pirates were hoping to do that because
Yeah.
now they're like that means their previous games are locked down as well, and they won't be able to move their Pokemon into and out of Pokemon Bank. So
I wonder if there's like a.
That's like-
It's kind of funny.
is there a forgiveness rite they can undertake? Like you have to climb the mountain next to Nintendo's home office and bow before the great Mario statue.
I'm just imagining like there's people at Nintendo like, we have all your Pokemon held ransom. You will stop pirating.
I feel it's like,
Apologize. Yeah.
prove that you bought it.
We need the receipt, and you can have your Pokemon.
I've always kind of wondered. I mean, that seems like kind of a gray area, which I'm sure it is absolutely not. But in my mind, it sort of equates to if I download a game that I own a license to, technically I've still pirated the software, but I also have a license.
Right.
So I'm not playing without a license. I'm just playing unlicensed software.
That was like a big argument with emulators, right? Where it was like,
Also,
I bought Super Mario World 30 years ago. Yeah, I totally can download it today.
it's the same argument they have with
It's not 30 years old.
any sort of DRM bypass, or because I mean, especially back in the day of playing games off CDs, there would be CD cracks just because the game fully installs to your computer, or several times that was an option, but you'd have to have the CD in order to play it. Much like putting discs and drives on consoles now, and on PC people get sick of that. It's like I don't want to do that. You're not using the CD for anything. You just downloaded a hacked executable, and now you don't need the CD anymore. But technically, I don't think that was legal.
Yeah, I don't think it was, but it's one of those sort of like how many somersaults do you have to go through like
Yeah,
logically to go from to make it okay.
yeah. And how much do they really want to prosecute someone that can prove they own the game?
Yeah,
like I did
that's
give
the
you
other
money, but they don't know that until they bring suit against you.
Yeah,
so.
unfortunately, I think those people are mostly out of luck.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, some people have actually now threatened lawsuits against Nintendo for breaking
Oh,
their
no.
stuff,
What
and I'm
will
like,
Nintendo do?
please pursue it.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how far it got, and then there's just like a guy that walks in the courtroom. They stole from us. And it's like open and shut case.
It's
All right,
like
well,
these
there
are
you
the
go.
terms of service they
He just-
agreed to.
He slaps
They
him in front of the
illegally
judge, and
downloaded
the judge
stuff.
is like, "I'm gonna allow this."
It's like I'm totally fine with it. That's justice.
All right. So final thoughts are: you buy it, you buy it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Well, there you go.
I like it. If you don't like Pokemon, I don't think this is going to single-handedly change your mind.
Yeah.
But if you're open to it or interested, or if like you got back into it because of Pokemon Go, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, it changes a lot about the formula, makes it feel fresh and kind of a new Pokemon experience.
It is friendly if you don't
Yeah.
feel like a veteran.
That's true. They're very hand holding, and also they give you a thing right away to like level all your Pokemon up at the same time. Pretty much. So
And to address, you were saying like it's such an established world at this point. It's kind of a standalone story.
that's
Okay.
true.
So,
So
like
if you know
don't,
nothing about it, then you still find it playable.
There are a ton of references to others, but none of them are like important. It's just like if you got the reference, you're like, oh, sweet. But if you didn't, you're like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
Right.
But that's fine. I'll drink this lemonade now.
All right.
Wait, the lemonade's a reference?
Some of it is.
Okay, well, I
actually.
drank lemonade without getting the reference, and
Some
I
of the
survived.
lemonade is a
Some of the
reference.
lemonade is a
Some of-
reference.
Then let us leave you with that thought. Some of the lemonade,
Just
is
some.
a reference.
just some. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Stay tuned for the after show or come join us for the after show if you're a first member.